Good morning and welcome to Jasiri. It's Wednesday and today we're digging into a national education emergency that can no longer be ignored. Over 1.5 million students, yes, more than 78% of those who sat for the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination JAM scored below 200 out of 400. These numbers aren't just statistics. They tell a painful story of a systemic failure, broken dreams, and a generation at risk of being left behind. Is the curriculum outdated? Are our teachers overwhelmed? Is the system failing our students? Or are we expecting too much from young people who are given too little to work with? Today we go beyond the headlines. We'll ask the hard questions. And more importantly, we look for solutions. But first. Now, I'm sure Nigerians will soon revert to using candles to see at home, as it appears we need to brace for yet another electricity tariff increase. Now, Nigeria's Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has announced that Nigerians should prepare for new electricity tariffs that reflect the true cost of power generation. He emphasized that the country's economy can no longer sustain the current subsidy regime, which has led to an outstanding debt exceeding 4 trillion naira owed to power generating companies, GENCOs, due to overdue subsidy payments. Now, according to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, as of February 2025, the average real cost of electricity was around 116 naira 18 kobo per kilowatt hour, while consumers were charged around 88 naira 20 kobo per kilowatt hour. The discrepancy resulted in a subsidy cost of 27 naira 97 kobo per kilowatt hour. Currently, all customers of the Nigerian electricity supply industry, except for the 15% classified as Band A, benefit from these subsidies. Adelabu stated that while the government plans to continue providing targeted subsidies for economically disadvantaged Nigerians, citizens must be prepared to pay appropriate prices for the energy they consume. This move, they say, aims to ensure the sustainability of the power sector and address the financial challenges GENCOs face. Lola has I declare myself a disadvantaged Nigerian.
Wait, let's take reactions. Let's take reactions first. Where is the money saved from all subsidy removal going to? You cannot subsidize oil. You cannot subsidize electricity. You cannot provide water. You cannot provide security. What are you providing or subsidizing? You want Nigerians to pay more for darkness, no stable lights, no prepaid meter justice, no transparency, yet every month you prepare us for more suffering. This isn't reform, it's extortion masked as policy. The ancestors didn't light lanterns just to watch us pay premium for blackouts. Fix the power, then talk tariff. Aso Rock has quietly taken themselves off the grid while they prepare to increase tariffs again for the masses. A government that cannot afford to pay electricity wants to increase electricity for the masses. This is totally unacceptable. God, I beg, give me money, make I run solar, go rest. This thing no be country again. I think their major agenda is to drive many people back to their villages. Are you saying I will be spending more than she spending 30K? Are you saying I will be spending more than the 30K I'm currently spending every month for a room self-contained? Please, you people should pity us. Note, I don't have AC. A house in my area got 9 million naira as estimated bill for last month. Imagine the government trying to increase the tariff they can't afford to pay themselves, but they expect the citizens who have been choked with multiple tax to pay. Why not? We only complain on social media without taking real action. Are food and data really more affordable now? And they want to raise electricity tariffs again, and we keep watching in silence. No one is coming to save us but ourselves. And that's what Lola always says.
Lola, go ahead.
Because I want to add a few things.
I just want to let them know that, please, on this show, maybe these people are high-end.
Please, can you please put your hand down?
I am a disadvantaged.
Please put your hand down.
I am a disadvantaged Nigerian.
I hope you know that the people they say will be exempt from this.
I am one of them.
Are the Band A. Exactly.
So we are paying.
You will pay. You will pay more.
Honestly, I am very unhappy. It's when I read one of the tweets and the person said that a government that cannot pay
the electricity bill, is exempting themselves from using the electricity. They want to use solar in Aso Rock now, but they expect the citizens to pay an exorbitant tariff. Is it that they just want I already know a house that, in fact, they power only their freezer. That is the only thing that is on in their entire house that gets their electricity 24/7. Even in their parlor, they've learned how to use this one, this side table. That's what they put on. Except maybe when they want to have dinner, they just try to put on one of those, They're already economizing. So what do you want such families to do?
And I wouldn't even be pissed if the electricity tariff would reflect the actual amount of electricity
that you're using.
Not getting, first of all, we're not even getting enough light, and then the meter does not reflect the true usage. Someone said it, that there is no prepaid meter justice. You can't, you load your meter today, tomorrow is finished, there's no explanation for it. You're not even getting enough light. I won't even be pissed if there was light and they're saying the electricity you consume. What consumption is there?
Consumption is already so hard living in this country.
Me that I just told you I wanted to buy new AC. And my husband is always shouting. So she says she's still paying 30K.
And
we're paying over 100 and something thousand per month. There's somebody who's already paid what he's going to pay by the end of the year, going by what is current, not what is coming, is going to be more than his yearly rent. That is happening for a lot of people. At the end of the day, in a year, yes, you're going to pay more in rent than you pay for a roof over your head in a year. But let's not forget, this is the same government that just a few weeks ago told us they were working on banning importation of solar, that they want to boost the local economy. This is the same government that just a few days ago announced the Nigeria First policy. They want to ban the importation of foreign goods that are being made locally. You are literally ending up, you want to ban Nigerians from living. You want to ban Nigerians from breathing. Because I don't understand when people say fix electricity and then talk about tariffs, I absolutely agree. Remember we talked about him last week or 2 weeks ago when he spoke about the fact of how much money the sector had made. And people were saying, you're making money but people are in darkness. Exactly. You're making money but people are going broke. If you're talking about a 4 trillion naira debt that is owed, it's not just about subsidy. Aso Rock owes money. Military owes money. Navy owes money. Government institutions owe money. Where is the recovery for the money from them?
Look at the average, at least the minimum wage is how much?
That's every state is so not paying the 70,000 naira minimum wage.
How many states are paying 70,000 naira?
Some have added on top. Some have added on top.
But some have even paid up to that.
That's it.
Let's even say they're paying 70,000 naira. Imagine if your electricity bill alone is 50,000 naira every month. Average family. That means you are not taking out your transportation, feeding, savings, your children's school fees, basic amenities, gas.
How do you want people?
Can you survive on 20,000 naira? Is it that you want to allocate 2,000 naira to one thing?
How do you want people to do this? Because in all honesty, how do you want people to do this? We're talking about even food insecurity now. We're being told that millions more Nigerians are going to be food insecure in the next several months. We had issues with our food situation. We have issues getting food to the markets. Food is still very if you see the nonsense plantain, my nanny bought for 3,000 naira. Plantain is like this.
So you even get 3,000 naira plantain. That means you live in.
I told her I had just made sauce. I just said, let me just do something smart. I told her to it was 3 days that I saw. It's like this. I told her to dice. She brought it to me. The thing did not. It's not half of this tablet.
I saw plantain here in Berger last 2 weeks. When the woman told me 5,000 naira for 3 fingers, I said, Madam, put it back. But I'm not happy for her because it's perishable.
Business is not going.
It's perishable. I didn't buy it. That means a lot of people will not buy that plantain and nobody has bought it. That means she's either going to lose that market because if nobody is buying it, she can't keep plantain.
Unfortunately, it has become impossible to even settle into the reality in Nigeria. Just when you think that, let's settle into the fuel price hike, the food costs doubles, you try to settle into that, electricity tariff, you try to settle into that, your salary is not increasing. Some people in this economy are still not even earning. How do they survive? How will they survive?
So I'll say this. Our electricity sector needs investment, but it also needs a complete overhaul. When we privatized
and we move from NEPA, and then we move to PHCN, and then we move to privatization. A lot of the reporting and investigations that have come out said there are people who got into the electricity sector who had no business being there. They didn't have previous experience in electricity generation or distribution. People were just getting contracts, and we're back here now. You're asking Nigerians to pay. So we're going to hit the streets, and we're going to ask Nigerians what's going to happen if the electricity increases, and what changes.
By the time you uncover and unmask some of these discos, some of these private, some of these people that you say bought into the electricity business, you'll be surprised that it is people shrouded like masquerades. The same people you know, year in, year out, they will be under, talking like masquerades because they will use other things to cover their faces. But by the time you dig deep, you find out that nothing has really changed.
Don't forget, we also had an increase in data because the telcos had not had an increase in almost 15 years.
You know how much I'm spending on data now?
Because I don't want going. That's the question. Where is it? Someone asked the question in the comment section. You say that you can no longer subsidize this, you can no longer subsidize
that. So what are you subsidizing?
Where is the money going? We need more transparency. We need to know what you're doing with the money.
You know, they are checking out other countries.
So what's that about? At this point, it feels like the government won't cure war. And the problem is when Nigerians will turn, because this is not going to be the NLC calling for a strike. I'm one of those who always believe that the protests that will effectively change this country, or the protests that will put us to the path of effective change, will not be called by any organization, any NGO, any CSO.
It will be hungry Nigerians
who will hit the streets that were tired, and nobody's going to be there to tell them to come. It's only going to be go. It is a situation in which, because you're subsidizing all these things, we're subsidizing the National Assembly. We're subsidizing the presidency. Who subsidizes Nigerians to live? Who subsidizes Nigerians to breathe? Because people will ask you, if I'm going to pay full price for fuel, I'm paying full price for electricity. Okay, even the education that quote unquote is slightly subsidized. What's the quality of it? We're going to get into that conversation after this. So what are you bringing? The government actually doing for
what are they bringing to the table?
Security. Is this security we need to talk about? Do we need to talk about security? No, we can't talk about security. People are dying every single day in this country.
To fly from Lagos.
When was the last time we had water from the water board?
Nibo. I've never, do you know that, I won't lie to you, in recent times, I have never seen anybody that will tell me that their water
comes from the water board.
I haven't seen in more than 5 years. Everybody has a borehole sunk somewhere. Honestly,
the lights will go out.
I'm really...
The lights will go out, and the way they'll come back on. I hope that the presidency, I hope that the administration is ready, because I think this is one thing that when it hits, it's not going to land well.
It's going to hit everybody.
It's not going to land well.
All right, so we're going to go for a quick break. By the time we return, we'll be ready to jump into this conversation about the education system. And of course, we have a very, very important guest who will be helping do justice to this very topic. We'll be back.
My face is like this because I just know this conversation is going to annoy me. It's just going to annoy me, but it's fine. We have to have it. Now, you can join today's conversation on social media. We are at News Central TV. The annoyance is going to be because we know what to do, we're not doing it. Let's lay the foundation. Now, let's see if we can face a troubling reality head on. The results of the 2025 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination are out, and they are staggeringly disappointing. Out of nearly 1.9 million candidates who sat for the exam, over 1.5 million scored below 200 out of the 400 possible marks. That's more than 78% of Nigerian students falling below what many consider the halfway mark, a result that's not just concerning but alarming. And it also forces us to ask, what exactly is going on? Are we teaching children how to pass exams or how to think? Is the curriculum truly equipping them for a future beyond the classroom, or are we preparing them for a world that no longer exists? And where does the blame lie? With the students, the leaders, the parents, the government, or even the system itself? Because when millions of students are failing, it's not just their failure. It's a failure of policy, a failure of leadership, a failure of vision. And it's one we can no longer afford to ignore. Now, joining us is Dr. Joy Issa. She's an education consultant and president of the Issa School of Education. And of course, she's our resident
education specialist. Dr. Isa, it's a pleasure to have you.
Always a
Unfortunately,
pleasure to be
under
here.
these circumstances, not so much, but it's good to have you here in the studio with us. Good morning.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be here.
It's great
Not
to have
under
you
these
join us.
circumstances.
Yeah, the circumstances are
I talked
dire.
about Dr. Isa yesterday when the news broke out. I said, I just thought to myself that whether she just shake her pretty head like, I told them. I've been telling them. I've been telling them.
And I feel like I need people to know that when we're discussing this, they should have at the back of their mind that Nigerians are people who excel wherever they go. So it's not a function of the lack of
brain capacity.
Yes, the brain capacity. Something is wrong. Anyway, this year, JAM reports that out of about 1.9 million students who sat for the UTME, over 1.5 million candidates, that's 78%, scored below 200 out of a possible 400 points. Only 12,414 candidates, about 0.63%, scored above 300. The last year, out of 1.9 million candidates who sat the 2024 UTME, only 8,000 candidates, or 0.5%, scored above 300 points in the examination. 24% of candidates scored above 200 and 76% scored below 200. Unfortunately, this is not a new issue, but year after year, we're seeing the signs that something is dangerously wrong. So let me ask Dr. Isa, were you surprised by the results this year?
Absolutely not. They're not a surprise because the system is not set up for the children to thrive beyond their abilities. If we even put aside the cognition, the thinking, look at the technical glitches the children experience. You can't get children up at 5 a.m. to run off and be ready to take an assessment at 6:30 a.m. You can't get there and then the biometric verification is not working. Then, oh, my computer froze and all those technical
We
glitches.
had one girl that it didn't come back on to about 10 minutes to the end of the exam.
Exactly. So all those things are additional problems. Now go to the test itself. I remember the last minister saying, the leader saying, the tests have been upgraded so that it now involves a lot of reasoning, a lot of thinking. All well and good. How much time do our children have to reason and think independently in schools leading up to JAM? We're very big on memorize this data set, pour it out in an exam in this way, and pass. But now you want me independently to synthesize information and apply it across different subject areas in a multiple choice timed exam. That pressure alone reduces the success rate. So there are too many things that are stacked up against the Nigerian child. The exam results are an adequate representation of where we are as a nation, who we are. And I have to point out one more thing. Of that 0.63% of children who scored about 300 and above, we have the underage group that was allowed to take the exam.
What they
The
said.
gifted and talented children, as the
Then
minister
became
said.
points.
Like, out of 4,000 plus of them, only about 400, 400 something, 10%. So I'm sorry, why do we consider these children gifted and talented? What's the criteria? It is possible that the school down the road thought, oh, this Joy knows what she's doing. We can't challenge her, promote her to the next level. Joy is suddenly categorized as gifted and talented based on the school, and you have thrown her to the sharks to face an exam that she's not cognitively, emotionally, mentally ready for. Honestly, so it's systemic failure.
So sorry, my own personal experience, I ended up at a gifted and talented school, and I'm always very proud in high school. My high school was one of the top 10 in the US to date.
Yes.
And they started scouting from 5th grade.
Yes.
You start taking exams. So when you take the state exam, that is your score. That is what allows you to get into the. So we're not.
So it's not subjective. In this school you're sharp, in the other school.
No, it is a standard.
It is a standard. I remember reading, I think it was Malcolm Gladwell's book, where he talked about a big fish in a small pond.
Yes.
And a small pond, I think it's Outliers or David and Goliath, one of those books.
Outliers.
And he said, look, do you want your child to be a big fish in a small pond?
No.
Because a 73% across board in a certain big university is a C. But in another university, that same child will be in the B to A range.
And it shouldn't be.
That is the way the world of education is, unfortunately.
No, when honestly, I cannot even tell you. I know maybe because
I have a child that is writing this exam. So maybe it hits home for me a little more personally. You do not know how I feel bad for these children in the secondary school. Tolu always amplify the fact that we face the tertiary institutions a lot. And we forget that primary school, secondary school, they're the foundation that we're building on towards the tertiary. And we have not even gotten it right at all. So what is the fate of these children? Anyway, I want to even ask, I said, we can't even ignore the fact that things are hard in the country. Many people are barely managing to send their kids to school, much less give them 3 square meals a day. To what extent could factors such as poverty, access to resources, and parental education levels influence UTME outcomes? Because many low-income homes cannot even feed their children 3 square meals a day. And some of these children are born to families whose both parents are not educated.
That's correct.
So how much help can they even offer? So that means even access to resources. We make jokes about it. Mommy, I want to buy this textbook for biology. So there is bio, there is law, and there is G. We laugh about it. But because of their lack of education, they cannot even comprehend that this is a resource book that is needed. What can they do?
Yeah. You know, I think about that question, and the first thing that drops in my mind is some data. You know, I like data a lot. Data shows that for children to succeed, they have to be present. The child themselves account for 50% of, let's say, the success factor, the child. The next most important factor is the teacher, 30%. And then 20% is everything else. So learning environment, parental influence, and all of that. So if Joy comes into the room hungry, 50% at a disadvantage already. Learning was already impeded to almost that full 50%. So she has to sell akara and, you know, do all sorts of things on the road, and then she comes into school. Then Joy's teacher is, you know, neither here nor there. The curriculum is neither here nor there. You know, it just sets the children up for failure.
We can't lie.
I have to say that this is why there is a proliferation of private schools.
But not necessarily all private schools are
They're
better.
not all better. However, education is being, should I say, remediated by the private sector. That is the simple truth and a fact in our country. We have, you know, people who complain, oh, these private schools are too expensive and all. And I say, look, what is the option? We have a number of our people who export their children, right? Education, education is an export almost. So we have these schools. I mean, I work with one of the schools, rugby school, and they've come in here to say, don't come to us. We are here. To you. And I like the fact that they're able to provide, to show a standard, so that the private schools are, and since the government will not hold us to a high standard, private schools look at each other. So what's the difference in paying this 100,000 here and 200,000 here? If I know that the next school is better, why won't I squeeze and pay more for better? That's the thing with private education. Unfortunately, what percent of the population can the private afford it? Very little. That is our issue.
So when I hear that, when we have this conversation,
that was a long time ago. Let's just be clear.
This conversation about public and private schools,
it drives
me insane because you need to service the mass. The mass is in public schools. So you have to have a standard for the mass, and what we don't have is a standard for the mass. And what we keep doing is we're letting children who are more economically advantaged continue to climb, while we're digging a hole for those who are disadvantaged. And we think we won't pay the price for that. So Blessings. Dr. Issa, you've spoken about the early mornings for the JAM. The verification issues and all that. But even beyond that, we heard from the Registrar of JAM that some of the students were not even able to operate the CBT. They were not digitally literate. And that's a very big problem for me, because how are you insisting on CBT exams when time after time, not just this exam, not just this year, you're getting the feedback that a lot of the students are struggling with digital literacy. Again, setting them up to fail this exam. So did we jump the gun in insisting on JAM fully being CBT based? And is it too late for us to change this route?
I'm not sure it's a question of jumping the gun as much as it is forcing us to change. Because sometimes if you don't insist on change, change will not happen.
Yes.
People don't like change, right? They resist change because they don't understand it, they don't like it, or they don't like the person implementing the change. So as a nation, we are ripe for change. Different sectors, telecoms, oil and gas, they're all digitalizing their processes. Education has to be digitalized to catch up with the rest of the world. So again, the dichotomy between public and private sector is evident, where children who go to good private schools have used a computer. And I remember I was at a conference in Enugu last week, and one of the speakers who had studied computer science mentioned that in his pre-degree program, undergrad program, computer science, he did not use a computer.
In his undergrad?
Yes.
University undergrad?
University.
First degree.
So it was later on, maybe he didn't specify, but later on that they could have access to the computer. Everything was theoretical.
I even saw a school, I don't know, we saw it on social media where they were drawing what a computer is, the keyboard,
I think
the
it's Ghanaian,
functionality.
yes.
Exactly. There's at another event, a private school teacher was called up because he was doing an amazing job. What did he do? He liaised with his principal and other stakeholders, and they converted an empty classroom into a computer room / library / sick bay.
Only one room?
One room. Because that's all they could afford. So in that room, he is the ICT teacher. So in that room with his 87 children, by the way, he has 4 computers. And at least they were able to get 4 donated. They were able to see the computers. They were able to schedule some kind of access. So those children are even, so this is one teacher. Remember I said the teacher accounts for up to 30%. So this is one teacher who has gone out of his way to do this, and you know that organization was trying to celebrate the teachers' efforts, etc. Going back to, and I always have to come back to the government, change has to happen from the top. We cannot continue to perpetuate this ineptitude. It is not working, and then we're surprised that our children are failing exams. I'm sorry, are they supposed to pass the exam? How? They've never used a computer. And all of a sudden, remember, high pressure, high stakes, early in the morning, I've not had breakfast, then you put me in front of a machine and I'm wondering, where do I click? Where do I accept? How do I, anyway, it's just, we have to support the children. We must support our children and not set them up for failure.
So let's take a look at this, because the Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, has now weighed in on the dismal results. In a TV interview, he said that the high failure rate is clear evidence that the government's anti-malpractice measures are yielding results, especially within the JAM system. Don't forget that JAM said 97 candidates were involved in examination infractions, while 2,157 candidates are being investigated for suspected malpractices. Does the minister's explanation make sense, Dr. Issa? Does it explain a 78% failure rate?
This is where they say they play.
I think we all know the answer to that question. The children will cheat, they're struggling and all because they're not confident. One. But 78%, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's clear that, okay, the people with technical glitches, did they cheat? The people with who did lack understanding of the content, did they cheat? If you don't understand what you're writing, I mean, you can't even guess.
Yeah, you can't even guess.
So I'm not quite sure I agree
with what the minister says.
I don't agree 100%.
Acting like ostriches, putting our heads in the hole. Okay, let's continue. We'll take a quick break in a moment, but let's take this question and then we go for a break. So I'm also curious. How well does this curriculum, we had the conversation as you sat down, and you were getting mics, how well does this current Nigerian curriculum prepare students for standardized tests like the UTME? And I'll abut it. Because at the end, you've mentioned people are going to sit down in front of this computer. All school year, some of these kids have not touched the computer.
No.
So you're already making them fail.
Yes.
Then there's the unfortunate garbage in, garbage out.
Yes.
They give them what, and then they just expect them to spew it. There's really no attempts at getting our students to think.
Absolutely.
To comprehend, to be able to summarize things in a way that they understand and bring it back to the exam. So is our curriculum, the yearly curriculum that we do, does it prepare the students who end up taking this UTME? And then at the end of the day, my famous question to you, when's the last time we had a curriculum review? I always have to ask every time I see you, Dr. Lisa.
Let's go back to the first time you asked me that question. And I say, to be honest, we did have a curriculum review last year, but that review is questionable because the review was to include
civics, or was it history?
No,
that's not the one that brought that back.
To include tiling, barbing, a bit of coding, yes, welding, carpentry, and things like that as skills from primary school.
But we asked about who are the people who are going to teach these skills.
No, nothing has happened in that part, number one. Nothing has happened to augment the very low literacy and numeracy levels. To your point, nothing has happened to infuse digital literacy at all levels. But we have reviewed the curriculum by including those things.
I know that this curriculum that you said have been reviewed. A lot of times they have no teachers for it.
No.
I was just telling TAB yesterday that a lot of times you find out that they just push all the children into homework.
Yes.
Because it's easy. And I'll say, who is taking technical drawing? They should be technical. There should be photography. There should be tiling. All these things you said. But I don't see an evidence of that anywhere. So what is the point of writing something in a big curriculum book and no implementation?
Can I again advocate for this? I know I talk about it and it seems weird, public-private partnership. The private schools that are coming, please, can I appeal? Can they set up departments for education? So if they can teach skill, we can get teachers who are well skilled.
Yes.
Everybody's setting up engineering department, medical department. But can you set up an education department for science education, medical education? That will make a difference and help. So the teachers that come and teach our children are better equipped to do a better job.
Wow. Honestly.
It's an appeal, very serious appeal. Because if you scan, and I have scanned severally, the more new universities come up, I check. No department for education.
Education. Who's going to train? Who's going to train
our
the trainer?
Train the trainers.
Yes, who's going to train
You
the
know when we
trainer?
spoke about this yesterday, we talked about the fact that it's the teachers that are still going to give you the lawyers.
Yes.
They're the ones who are going to give you the doctors. They're the ones who are going to give you the engineers. They're the ones who are going to give you so many. Is this why buildings are collapsing?
Well,
I don't know.
Is this why we
because that is another talk.
No. When I say buildings are collapsing, if they're not getting the right foundational education, why won't they know what level of concrete and sand to mix? And it's not fun. We need to think about
this saying that Dr. Issa says. When this crisis started, I thought about her like a day or so ago, and I kept thinking that Tolu was advocating that we should teach them better so that when they come out of school, they have a more fighting chance, because some children don't have the head for university.
University is not for everybody.
They can learn skills. They can be technically...
And they end up employed and probably making more money sometimes than those who got a degree.
You know that our polytechnics, a lot of them have been converted to universities, unfortunately.
We talked about it,
undervalue polytechnics, monotechnics, and all of that.
We do not have dignity for labor in this country.
White-collar jobs. So again, I'm sorry, but this is why I advocate for the private schools. So those who are passionate, who have said, you know what, I can take 1,000 children. You have to pay me a premium, but I'll take 1,000 children and I will support them and I'll move them forward. Yes.
So let me give you an example. When my sister has relocated, and she called me one day, something pipe had burst in her house, and for her to get the pipe fixed, it was $500.
What?
My sister went to Google to go and do everything herself. There's a skill, there's a person, the technician called HVAC. They do HVAC, that's home ACs. The people we call artisans, they're cleaning house abroad. We had a friend also relocate. He didn't have his tire burst. He didn't have a spare tire in his car. He had to call someone to come and do it, right? The person who came was a Nigerian in a fully kitted van.
he dropped $200 that day.
That's right.
To get. Meanwhile, I will drive to the vulcanizer and just
so I
sit
get
and be
it.
lounging.
Baba Sulaiman,
We don't, even they, I don't, because of how society views some of these jobs we consider menial, they don't think that they too can upskill, upgrade themselves, even at that corner street.
That's true.
These are jobs that are in big demand, and some of these people have the experience that a lot of people abroad don't have.
But that's why they're
know-how. That's why they're jackpotting. We need to change our mentality.
Yeah. And I think that there's nothing more accurate than the word jumping the gun in our Nigerian education system, because it's like we know we are advocating so much for change, but we're not focusing on the process that leads to change. Imagine knowing how to find X and not knowing how to find the button that will lead you to answer the question that will make you find X. It's messed up. I studied mass comm, and every time anybody asks me, what did you study? And I say mass comm, they say no wonder. I'm like, don't do that, because all through my 4 years in school, I had no idea what mass comm was, and I was studying mass comm until I finished. So it's like, the question is, what are they teaching? Because there's no practical, there's no experimentation. You just sit down and then they feed you with information that doesn't relate to today's world. So it's like the amount of money you need to be able to find X, you've not even made it. You need to focus on making that money.
I hate to find it. I was saying before, I've never in my life, since I finished algebra and came out, God, I've never in my life used Pythagorean's theorem to do anything. Nothing.
It's probably because you're not mathematically inclined.
So please give it to me.
The money in your account is not even.
It's not that not that we're even talking about teachers. I feel sorry, because one, a lot of times teachers are the ones that take the flak when all these bad things, we've been talking about them, but some of them, just like the children have been set up for failure, they are set up to fail from the beginning. One, let me start from the education. Do you know that when I was growing up, I don't know if things have changed, a lot of people that study education are the people that didn't get better courses. So he's like the dredge of society. It's not like, oh, they have a passion, a fire to give knowledge back. They just found out that they couldn't make the cut-off mark for this and that. Education is just where they can just, and half of the time you just see scarf-wearing people, just a set of funny-looking people. They just say,
okay, we understand.
So that was how they were. Let's say they're low-level thinkers. Exactly. No, that's even more bougie. Low-level thinkers are there, and I'm looking at this crop of people. That these are the crop of people that will go out in the society and teach our children. One, now we have Japa syndrome. All these grade A schools that you're talking about, that even private schools that are worth their weight in gold. Half of their teachers have relocated. That is true. So that is another debt, even in that sector. We have lack of learning materials. We had someone recently talk about autism. We talked about Montessori school. A lot of times, a lot of people in Nigeria, they just see Montessori as a nice name to put.
No, the thing is about it's about
they do not even know
of things for kids.
What it is behind that. It is a science of teaching, where they use graphic things to teach children.
And immersion.
And it's not that we cannot, because I said it all to that day that a very savvy carpenter can make some of the Montessori equipment. If they feed them what they want, building blocks, Lego kind of things, things to touch and feel, all those things are there. Now we're talking about inadequate school facilities. A lot of schools do not even have facilities that can be separated.
You just talked about teaching the example. In one room.
It's a sick bay, a computer room, and a library. So now
in Lagos. In Lagos.
Yes, in Lagos. In Lagos. And now we now have teachers that have side hustle. Because how are we supposed to eat?
Exactly.
We cannot eat. We cannot survive on the bare minimum wage, and teachers are at the bottom of the ladder. So even I have a side hustle. Like I said, I'm working with this new school now. Yes, because for this school, for example, they're like, look, the number of Nigerians who are abroad in their school. Let's come to Nigeria. There must be something. Now that UK has slammed 20% extra VAT on the schools abroad, a lot of Nigerians, what's that word? Jackpot back. Yes, jackpot is happening in the space of education, and there are some of these high-end private schools that are taking advantage of the opportunity. But not just, again, I honestly must insist, it's not about a bougie education, but about quality. Can we, Nigerians, can we not cascade quality down? Can we not improve
our expectations. Look at Finland, look at some of these countries. You can't teach except you have a master's degree.
Master's degree.
Please, Dr. Issa, I don't even say Finn.
So how do we expect the person who didn't pass medicine, engineering, and then they've been doing maths education. By the way, they didn't pass English.
Yeah.
But they've gone to study maths education or geography education, and they finish all of that in about 3 years, and then they go to do a B.Ed in maybe said geography and all. They still did not pass English, by the way.
And they wanted to.
And now Joy has a B.Ed geography education and wants to come to your bougie school for you to employ them. You interview the teacher, and the bullets are just like and it's like, what is happening here? Oh yes, ma, I've been teaching the A levels, and I can do the A levels. Yeah.
Dr. Issa, hold it. You need to go for a quick break. I said this, I said at the beginning, this conversation, it irks my soul because we know what to do as a country and we're refusing to do it. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, let's see if we can talk some solutions. Now, according to the World Bank, a report released earlier this year, around 37 million out of Nigeria's 50 million children aged 7 to 14. I need you to listen. Around 37 million of Nigeria's 50 million children aged 7 to 14 are unable to read and understand a simple text. Overall, only about 1 in 4 children from 7 to 14 demonstrate foundational literacy. And even among children who attend school in these age corresponding grades, only 4 in 10 demonstrate foundational literacy. So while the country does not yet have official learning poverty figures, estimates using available data suggest that more than 75% of Nigerian children are unable to read and understand a simple text by the age of 10. The share is slightly higher for males when compared to females. I want that to sink in. You know, every time I have Dr. Joy, I re-emphasize that, because if they're already doing like that at 7, 8, 9, 10, how do we expect them to pass UTME? Are we, what's the word? Are we delulu? We're deluluing ourselves. But we promise that we're going to get into the solutions part of this conversation. And at the end of the day, Dr. Joy, what are we doing? What can we do now? It's bad. If you look at the statistics from we did 5 years, 2020 to 2025, there are horrible statistics. In all, I'm going to get them for you. The number of kids who have gone to the exams for JAM and everything, when they do the exams, they don't pass. Our failure rate has continued to climb. So overall, let me get that for you very quickly. When we look at it from 2020 to 2025, just doing a summary, we've had over 10,500,000 candidates for JAM. Over 8 million have scored below 200 in the past 5 years. And then total candidates who scored 200 and above, just around 2.4 million. The average failure rates from 2020 to 2025, 79.2%.
This is why I say we should not continue to perpetuate ineptitude. The curriculum has been reviewed to include some core skills. However, the attention to literacy, numeracy, digital competencies has not changed. How are we getting our children to read? We don't focus enough on the base skill of reading. What we promote is rote memorization of words so that they can quickly write. And my child can write 1 to 100 at 3 years old.
God bless you.
Does the child understand the value of the figure 3? Can the child compare what looks like the digit 3 and the value of 3 and 30? The value of 3 and 30? No. But I can write 1 to 1,000 and I'm only 3 years old or 4 years old. So the connection between the relevance of what our children are learning in school and the application in real life is missing. Everybody knows, well, research, science, we know in education spaces that learning is internalized more for boys when it is relevant to their current environment. So that is part of what is resulting in the gap between the boys and the girls. The learning is not relevant to their environment. They have to read a 1945 published handout from a lecturer in 2020. No. A handout that the lecturer's lecturer gave them in 1945, and the lecturer is still using that. And so all those examples are the examples being cited.
And even the lecturers are not expecting them to understand. We called it drag and drop in my school.
Exactly.
Just cram it, write the exam,
and move forward. Exactly. And the lecturer, because the lecturer has 2,000 students. So how am I going to really process 2,000 papers? I look for the drag and drop. I recognize the text. Yes, done. A, next. If I don't recognize it, well, you didn't write it. If I can't read it, you didn't write it. So we see those things, and it's heartbreaking, because even in a country, our neighbors down the road, Rwanda, war-torn country, a change in their curriculum, a change in their approach to learning has resulted in national transformation, where the children are taught differently. They're taught to think. Singapore, same thing, when Lee Kuan Yew was there, changed the curriculum to include relevant skills, to include things like, responsibility for your environment, the soft skills. And so that has translated, and now we have organized nations, and we're wondering what's happening to us now.
Where are we in this place?
Where are we in the picture? So Joy, who didn't study, wanted to do engineering, ended up in maths education because she needed to remediate English and maths or whatever. How can we ensure that initial teacher training that Joy goes through empowers her to be a good trainer of the children? The NCE curriculum, till date, I don't know where we are with that, which is why I'm appealing to the private universities. Please help us. Can we have colleges of education by private universities? So that University of Science and Technology have the education department. So I understand science. Pythagoras theorem you mentioned. A maths guru was telling me, when she was thinking about, carpet, just explain it simply. How do you, the distance between 2 points is the shortest line now, that the hypotenuse now, and she just said it like that, and I was like, is that why we learned that? But another teacher, you tell the children, children, we're going to put a skirting around this room, and then we need to change the carpet. So how do we find the distance around the room so we can do the skirting?
Total circumference.
Perimeter.
It's coming back to me.
And then for the surface, to put the carpet, so you need to calculate the area of it. And then the children are not cramming area and perimeter. They're fixing their house. They're learning it. They're doing the skirting of their house.
I would never remember you can apply it to.
That's why you do area and perimeter.
Oh my God.
So the limitation of our children is the limitation of the teacher.
And it's the limitation of the nation.
Yes.
Dr. Joy, we have just like 1 minute. So you've spoken about private schools getting involved, private universities as well, public-private partnerships. But it has to come back to the government.
Yes.
The mass is what we're aiming at. And the mass of children are in private schools at state and federal levels. Public schools at state and federal levels. What are the immediate actions that government should take, looking at these results that came out?
Honestly, it sounds brutal, but we need to overhaul the teachers. You cannot fix the hunger. Well, no, you can. Please, can we provide meals for the children so they eat when they come to school?
And even the teachers.
Because if they're hungry,
they can't learn. They can't assimilate.
No. So at least 1 meal a day. So that feeding program, can we roll out the feeding program across all public schools across the nation, primary and secondary one? So the child knows, I will eat when I get to school, so I want to go to school. If we can feed the teachers, glory to God. It will be wonderful. So the teachers are also fed. Then come back to the 30%, which is the teacher factor. They need resources, yes. They need the digital, tools. They need all these things, but they need to understand how to think. The teachers were taught to regurgitate and pour. The teachers are not processing information at higher levels. In initial teacher training, they teach us Bloom's taxonomy, right? And they say there are 6 levels of processing or cognition. Level 1, you just remember. Level 2, you have a bit of understanding and you can, connect. Most times, multiple choice and all is there. Level 1, what do you remember? Yes, no. Then you go up to application. Can you apply this knowledge in a different context? Like we did with area and perimeter just now. Then you go to analysis. Can you analyze? Why do we need to know area and perimeter? Why do I need to know photosynthesis? can you synthesize next level that information from different groups? That's where your read this, come together, and then can you create new products? We are functioning at the base level across the country. Can we begin to function more and promote higher order thinking so that our society becomes, those who think higher order?
Honestly, Dr. George, Isa, I want to thank you so much always for your time and your passion in changing the learning outcomes in Nigeria. I can't lie, this has been a very sobering conversation. It's gotten to me. One thing is clear, the future we keep talking about is already here and in the hands of the students who are not being equipped to carry it. Over 1.5 million candidates scoring below 200 in the UTME isn't just a statistics. It is a warning, a call to action, a mirror reflecting the gaps we've allowed to grow in our education system. If we want better outcomes, we need better input, from policy to curriculum, from teacher training to infrastructure, and from family support to national investment. The question now is not just how did we get here, it's where do we go from here, and who is willing to lead the way. This conversation does not end here. It continues in our homes, in our classrooms, in our communities, and yes, in the policies we demand and the choices we make. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye for now.